So Amara Valley is a retreat center. We're in Catalonia, in the north of Catalonia in Spain. And we're just continuing on the work that has been going on in this land for some generations now. Before us, there was a spiritual community living here, developing the place as a retreat center. Before them, a yoga community. And my background is as a yoga teacher. So the last decade or so, I've mostly been focusing on teaching yoga and running teacher training, this kind of thing. And so our aim for Amara Valley has been to have both a place to host our own retreats and events and our teaching, and also to be able to host other groups, which is how we've met, that you came with this wonderful teacher, Juliet, and to really develop not just a place for retreat. I think in a way our vision beyond that is that Amara Valley develops as an institution for learning, for sharing, for cultural gathering, for really developing greater awareness about the links between all of these wonderful practices and traditions and understandings that we have access to more than ever in the modern world, more than any other generation of humans that came before us. So kind of drawing lines between things. But Amara Valley as a retreat space is just starting. We're just coming to the end of our second year, and obviously that's been quite a journey this last couple of years since coming here. It's been dealing with a lot of change. It's been a lot of work on so many levels, on physical, energetic, cultural, personal levels, and we're finding our way through that, basically.
That was a really nice introduction. You know what leaves me still in awe about what's special about Amara Valley? I have not been to so many retreat centers, so I don't know. But what really impressed me is that it's off-grid. Can you explain what this means?
So being off-grid means not connected to power or water or sewage grids in the way that we just take for granted in a city, and for most people, for most urban centers, it's just part of the background of life. It's invisible for most people. You flush your toilet and it just goes away, and most people don't even think where. You turn on the tap, water comes out. You turn on the light switch, the light goes on. All of this kind of thing. But being off-grid means that you're conscious about what it takes for every one of those aspects to occur. So at Amara, you turn on the light switch and the light switch is on, and we have water coming out the pipes and all of these kind of things. But we have to take care about managing how all of those things occur. And so being off-grid is more challenging in a lot of ways. It takes a lot more technical, should we say, understanding and maybe expertise, and just a lot more care and work. But in doing so, part of what is really interesting about that for me is that it becomes a meditation on what actually is occurring in the world. It's like a physical, infrastructural meditation. To take a shower, to heat the water when hot water comes out, it's like you know that it's because there's a fire burning that is heating the water, and there's you see the process of things, you see the life cycle much more clearly. For me, being off-grid a lot more in recent years has been really about that, about becoming more aware about what it takes to provide for human needs, to provide warmth, shelter, water, all of these kind of things, plumbing, and then realizing, okay, how can I take responsibility for that personally more? We outsource a lot of the responsibility of our lives to institutions, and it's not that that's a bad thing. There's a great economy of scale that urban centers develop around that, and a great standard of living a great standard of safety around things, around electrics, around sanitation and sewage and all of this kind of stuff. But I'm personally really interested in just being really clear and aware about what it takes for a human to live well. So that's kind of like a deeper context for what my interest is in coming to Amara and setting this place up in the way that we're doing. And something that I think is really valuable, especially for people who've never had that experience, to come to a place off grid, that it just changes a little bit your insight when you go back into your life, if you're in a city, if you're in a town, whatever it is, of going, how is this power being generated, you know? Because maybe it's just been invisible to you, and it's being generated by a coal-fired plant miles away. And there might even be different choices that you can make about which providers you work with, about just understanding that there's this whole life cycle to everything that's happening for you. To be a little more aware about how we use water, this precious resource, which, you know, fresh water makes up less than 1% of all the water on the planet. And, you know, we live in such water wealth, water abundance, that we poo in it, you know, in the Western world. And it's like, okay, you know, we just don't think anything of all of the water that goes through our lives. And with the number of humans that are on the planet, and with what's happening in terms of the climate and resource use on the planet, we actually have to become more aware about how we're using all these things, I think. So I see that as kind of like it's the stealth ulterior motive of all of the, you know, the kind of beautiful retreat experience that is here in Amara. It's kind of one of those other things of like, actually that little things like this can open up our awareness into what's happening in the world, what we're doing in our lives, our personal impact on the planet, our footprint and our handprints, the trace that we leave through the actions that we make, through the decisions that we make, which otherwise I think a lot of people often feel very disempowered in the modern world around that there's only these options and then that's it, you know. And so I like that just by exploring, you know, I think off-grid living is also about coming back to making it clear to yourself and maybe to others that other options are viable, other ways of living are viable. And it's not about hardship, you know, it's not about being tough and, you know, being cold or being, you know, in any way deprived of a good life. Actually, quite the opposite, I find.